The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Tell Us Why, a podcast for the financial freedom community. In business, we often get so focused on the what, we lose sight of the why. The why is the key to your success. When you know your why, then your what has more impact. Money is the result of our work, but it's our why that fuels it, that fuels you. If you're looking to succeed in your quest for financial freedom, make sure to join us every week as we, along with our guests, discuss different stories of success, how they were achieved, and how you can do the same. And of course, we ask them to tell us why. Here are your hosts, Jack and Mike.
Welcome to the Tell Us Why podcast, episode number 3.
We made it.
Listen, right off the drop, I'm gonna mix it up. We're live on YouTube, on Facebook right now.
Yes, we
and
are.
also on iTunes officially. So
Good job, sir.
We're legit.
We are legit.
Legit.
Screw ups and everything. So we're making it. What do we got going on today?
Well, I am Jack Donoble, your host, along with my co-host here, Michael Ketchin. No big deal. Today we got Mike. Mike,
I'm the guest.
You are the guest.
So you were the best guest ever last week. How do I top that?
I don't know. You get a lot
It's
of work.
impossible.
A lot of work to do
Literally
today.
impossible.
Yeah, you're the second best guest ever.
Thank you. Second best.
Fact.
And next week we have our first real guest. We'll have our first real best guest ever.
But so what's going on in the business?
Oh, man, exciting stuff. As you know, and anyone who follows along in our Facebook community we're building, our social media platforms, had a closing last week and have another property under contract, one we're in on together, our Keen portfolio takedown. We'll be discussing that online in depth and really excited. Biggest construction deal we ever did, 9 months, turned around our biggest one, which is pretty exciting, crushing this year's goals. And what about you? What do you got going on?
You know what? I just wanted to touch on this community. You mentioned it. I've had a couple of people reach out to me in the past week since last week's. Like, this is exactly what I wanted. Like, people, some business owners reaching out, asking questions.
Awesome.
Getting together. Like, I got a couple of meetings set up with just people I haven't talked to since I was literally 12 years old.
They're excited about what we're doing here, what's going on. That is awesome.
I know Mike's going to be listening to this, and I want him as a guest. But I had a great conversation with him the other day. Financial advisor, been doing financial advising for a long time now, has his own shop, and just asked me a couple of questions and stuff like that. Like, I love this stuff.
Getting the itch,
I absolutely love this
getting
stuff.
the itch scratched.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
I love it.
Uh-oh. Now you're coming to the rabbit hole. Watch out.
Yeah. But, so like I said, Mike is a guest. We're ready to dig into it.
I think so. But first, what do we got going?
Kick it off with
Great folks
great folks
at Boynton's Insurance.
Are you sick of being treated like just another number by large insurance companies? Do you want a more personalized experience with somebody that you can trust? With Keith Monty from Boynton's Insurance, that's exactly what you'll get. Keith is an experienced professional who can design an insurance plan tailored to fit your specific needs. With access to over 30 insurance carriers, Keith is able to shop numerous markets to find a price that works for you. So if you want an insurance agent that you can rely on and one that has your best interests at heart, then call or text Keith today on 978-241-2363. That's 978-241-2363. Keith Monty. He'll get you covered.
All right. So like I said, we have Mr. Michael Ketchin here today. So before we dig into it, as we mentioned in episode number 1, like, we've been talking about this for over 2 years now.
Over 2 years, yeah.
Like, I haven't asked you your why because I want this to be raw. Like, I knew we were going to do this eventually. I wanted to be live in it. Like, I didn't want it scripted or rehearsed or anything like that. Like, I want to get into it. So let's do that. Tell us about your business. Where are you at today?
All right. So where we're at today, we are right around, I don't even know, 100 and something odd doors
I don't
now.
even know.
Well, seriously, because as you get going, you lose. When you first start, you think, oh my God, 100 doors. You get to that point, and you're just thinking, okay, I got to do this. So we're north of 100 units. Still have 4 Airbnbs. Doing some flipping. Have done some wholesaling. Business is really good. Added some team members, which was exciting. Got some more in the pipeline. Again, I think. We're getting closer to where we ultimately want to be. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, as we, throughout the journey, how it's changed. But 2021 has been great. 2020 was our best year, far and away. Every year we've luckily progressed. Yeah, I thought there was a pandemic. No, and it's, again, what is the saying? Be greedy when others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy.
Yeah, what is that? Warren Buffett?
Playing out.
Warren Buffett quote?
Yeah, definitely Warren Buffett quote. I hope so. Where it's playing out in real life. Yeah, so where we're at right now, basically, we're refining our practices, and we're scaling, meaning...
Systematizing style?
Exactly. We kind of put this framework in place. It's being altered a little bit as you're growing. Things are being stress tested. Things are being adjusted. But we're getting closer and closer to our goals. We have some pretty big, ambitious goals, but we're chomping down those trees daily, and we're getting there. And very excited. I have the best business partners in the world. I could not do this without them, including this show. I could not do without them. You've probably seen me give them a ton of credit, but I'm still not singing their praises enough. So Matthew and Hannah, thank you so much.
And just a side note, Matthew will be here next week.
Matthew will be the guest next week.
Number 4.
We wanted him to be the first guest because he's just an unbelievable guy, unbelievable investor, and wanted to definitely share his story. So that's kind of where we're at. That's where we're at. We're living life on our terms and kind of designing things around our why.
Yeah. So, I mean, you obviously studied this your entire life, and this is all you've ever done, right? That's it?
No.
That's how it worked?
No.
Oh, no.
No.
You were an educator.
Yes.
Which I still think you should be like a coach or something like that. But that's a different story for a different day. You are an educator by like internally. I think you're an educator.
I appreciate that.
But why don't you tell our audience where you started?
Yes. So
and how did you get here?
I was, and it kind of all ties into Tell Us Why. So today's just going to be one big love fest. I'm sure Jack alluded to because it's kind of all coming full circle. And I think you really got to start with the beginning. So I'm the oldest boy of a single mom. There's 3 boys, and I kind of had to take on the father role, for lack of a better word, from a young age. I hope my brothers know. I hope as they get older they see why we had to do some of the things we did, but it is what it is. Would not change a single thing about my childhood looking back on it because I think it got me to where I am now. But it was, my mother did an unbelievable job given the hand she was dealt. But essentially, first in my family to go to college, had to figure that out, made a bunch of mistakes in doing that, but got a degree. Was good at sales, was good at talking. Took one promotion too quick. Thank you. Took one promotion, Chrissy, be quiet. Took one promotion too quickly. Ended up with a boss that everyone in the company I was at the time warned me to not go work for, but I was short-sighted. I saw the numbers, the dollars, and I said, how hard can this be? I found out why a bad leader can destroy a culture quicker than anything can be created. Transitioned, had a buddy who was teaching. He's still teaching today. And at the time, seemed like a lot of money. He said, hey, man, you can make like $200 a day being a substitute teacher. This is 2007-ish, I think. So I said, all right, I'll do that in between gigs. I went there day one. The assistant principal met me, liked me. I showed up and was showing the kids a movie that day. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to get paid to show them a movie. Hit it off. He said, can you come back tomorrow? I said, absolutely. That just kind of rolled. They kept keeping me. Had no idea what I was doing. Quickly realized, though, that I was not a good student. I mean, I was the worst student you could imagine. And one of the reasons was the way I learned, the way I process, the way I'm, I have ADD. If anybody who knows me knows this, but it doesn't take long to figure out.
Our conversations before.
Yes, I did not like
this episode.
Yes, I did not like.
He's talking about 3 things at once.
Yes,
I don't know what's going on right now.
So, long story short, the long and short of it, I get into education. No idea what I'm doing, but I worked in an urban public school district, and I like the kids, and I saw a lot of potential in the kids and the hand they were kind of being dealt because it reminded me of where I grew up and how I grew up. I tell people, I don't know if we're going too in depth here or not, but I was essentially, the minority in my own community. All my friends to this day are predominantly Latin, and I was so fortunate, and going back to why I wouldn't change anything, to grow up in that setting. I feel like it gave me a very unique perspective and experience on day one. And I have the best group of friends in the world. And I had those experiences because of that. So fast forward, I'm in education for a bit. I become a special education teacher because it was a program that I really believed in because I like the way that it taught kids.
You were special ed?
Yes, special
I
ed,
did
master's
not
degree in
realize
special
that.
education. And I got into it because we were teaching a program that was very designed, tell me if this ties into real estate, systematized, start to finish. And I was taking kids. I was not the guy doing the content. And I was taking kids who were coming in to the country. They'd only been here for a year or two. They were always misdiagnosed with learning disabilities. They didn't have that. They were learning 2 languages. They were brilliant. Yeah. But we had to give them to show they could perform in reading. So this program gave me the skills. I just had to give them the motivation and empower them. And they took off. Fast forward the next step of my education career, I had a principal who took over a school that basically his first year as a principal, he promoted me to an administrator. And we sat in I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm so far removed now, who cares? We sat in a room with the state of Massachusetts, and they said, I don't think a lot of his staff knew this. We were the 5th worst high school in the state, in the state. And they said, you have 2 years to figure this out or everyone's basically going to be replaced. So we sat there. We said, what are we going to do? We said, well, we're not going to feel sorry for ourselves because no one else is. He was putting together an unbelievable team. I'm still indebted to this man to this day because he showed me how to be an unbelievable visionary, how to be a great leader. And more importantly, he showed me how to scale something because within 3 years, it is still to this day the only successful turnaround of a high school in the United States.
Wow.
And everybody from that leadership team, everybody from that admin team today in 2021, a lot of them aren't even in education anymore. They're out crushing it in different roles. I know in one of the pre-episodes, you met a guest we hope to have on a future episode. She's killing it as a consultant across the country. There's other consultants in other companies.
I think we touched base on her last week,
yes,
right? 30 states across the country or something like that. Yeah.
Everybody from that team went on. And what also happened at the end of that is they redesigned the school. And all of a sudden, the model we had spent 5 years building didn't fit anymore. And I watched a culture and an inability to adjust kind of crumble. And that stuck with me. And that was around the time I started to find real estate investing. And I remembered, okay, this is how you build something, and this is how you do not build something. And I took those lessons, and we kind of went into this. Because as I mentioned, I was burnt out, and my team was tired, and we had to do something else.
On a side note, how did you discover real estate investing?
Oh my God. So me and Matt, who will be the guest next week, he's my brother's best friend. Matt's a little bit younger than me. We have been talking about this since I think he was in high school and I just graduated or around that same time and knew nothing about it. Just the idea was, hey, there's got to be a way to make money in real estate. I mean, you live in these buildings, knew nothing. Fast forward 2016-ish, I said to my wife, who was commuting to MIT, as I mentioned, I'm working in Lawrence Public Schools and I'm burnt out. So there has to be something else. We need to have some kind of security, some kind of differentiated income. Knew none of this. I'm Googling, how do you flip houses? That's where I heard about a home equity line of credit. Yeah. So we applied for a HELOC. We got a $40,000 HELOC. Yippee, you know. And for me, it was more money than I'd ever seen in one single time. And I couldn't believe I had access to it. And as I'm Googling, I came across a website that's out there that helps a lot of a lot of investors get started in real estate. And they started talking about different tips and techniques, and I had no idea what was what, but I decided we're going to figure this out. So we approached Matt. We had another friend at the time who was a GC. We asked him if he wanted to be involved. He ultimately wasn't involved, but initially he was kind enough to help us look at some properties, try to wrap our head around it. Fortunately, my mother-in-law is a real estate attorney, so that helped, and she's the best real estate attorney. That helped getting us a head start. And she's also Jack's attorney, so he's trying to get the family rate. Yeah. And basically... Very
much so.
Yeah, we started looking at deals, and one thing led to the other, and here we are. And, you know, I we can get into the story of the first one, which, you know, kind of how we got here, if you want. I don't know where you want to go.
I mean, you can start there, kick it off.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, the first deal we did, we literally looked. Yeah, we literally looked at 100... Oh, Christ, it must have been over 100 properties before. I mean, we were offering. We had no idea what we were doing. We just were not getting offers accepted. This is right around the time. I mean, the market's gone even hotter, but at the time, people didn't think it could get hotter. And me, Matt, Hannah, and a group of friends were across the state in New Hampshire. We were in the mountains. And on Craigslist, a gentleman had a property listed in Kennebunkport. And he said, you can come look at it, but you got to look at it today. So we left 2.5 hours, I think the drive was, in a snowstorm in a car that was built for snow. Walked into this house in Kennebunkport, which I knew nothing about Kennebunk. I went to college with a girl from Kennebunk, and that's all I knew about it. I'm like, I think there's money up there. And we walk in, and
the bushes are up there, right?
Yeah, there's mold. It's dirty.
A lot, if you're not familiar with the area.
Yes. And sure enough, but the bones of it were good because we had looked at so many. So we offer on it. No idea what we're doing. No idea how we're going to finance it. Had listened to a couple podcasts, so I thought I knew what I was doing. Luckily, had a team and people behind me, but basically we got into it, got under contract, turned around the whole thing in 4 months. As we're doing it, we hear about this thing called the Burr method, which we talk about a lot. And no one in my circle knew what this was. Everyone thought we were crazy. They're like, what do you mean you're going to refinance it and get cash back and still keep it?
No one outside of real estate has any idea about this.
And
there's smart investors out there
have no idea.
No idea.
Conversation we had the other day.
Yeah.
So essentially we buy it for $300,000. We put about $150 into it. It appraised at $800,000. And we walked out of the closing with the property.
Is that good? I'm not sure.
The cash flow from the property for the future and a check for $162,000. Yeah. And more importantly, that check was all cash and it was debt, so we didn't even have to pay it back. And I looked at Matt and I looked at Hannah and I said, this is what we're doing. Yeah. I just made more in 4 months than I've made in my entire life. Yeah. Why can't we do this again? Yeah. And that's kind of what
this goes back to the thing that we've been stressing throughout the podcast is we're doers, not talkers.
Yep. Taking action.
Take action. If you don't know everything, figure it out along the way. Just take action.
Absolutely.
Do something. At least baby steps.
Get in the game.
You don't have to go for $10 million properties on day one. Take a baby step.
Get in the game.
Go somewhere south and buy a $100,000 house for $9,000 down.
Yep.
But all right. So where do you see the business going over the next couple of years?
Man, we have some pretty lofty goals. And again, I'm a problem solver. We have a pretty aggressive number that we want to do two things. We want to obtain that number monthly in terms of a salary, owner's draw, whatever you want to call it. But we also, my why is really time freedom. And, she probably doesn't hear this enough, but my wife is far and away the best thing that's ever happened to me. The whole goal is to be able to live life on our terms. We did not want to be 65, 70, 75. As I mentioned, my father passed when I was 46. I'm 36 now. He was 46 years old, yeah. I'm 36 now. I was in a very high-stress job before this. I didn't know, I don't know how much time I have. I mean, I came from literally nothing. I mean, I watched my mother work 2 jobs, and me and my brothers cooked each other dinner for, until the time I was 12. Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything else. So I feel like I already won the life I'm living now. So it's not just about money, but it is about, and it really ties to my why, about making enough where I can leave an impact and leave a legacy behind. But more importantly, our goal is by the time I'm 40, I'm 36, I'm halfway through my year 36. I want to be a day-to-day consultant in every company I do. So I am starting in every single decision we make, and that's part of growing right now, is through the lens of being able to take a step back and truly do what we want when we want. Anybody who knows me, I don't think I'll ever turn. I wish I was the guy to go sit on the beach for a week. It sounds great in my head every time I say it. That's not me. But I want the freedom and the flexibility. To your point, I'm very passionate about. I would love nothing more than to be able to go back and give back to the urban communities that I'm from, the ones I taught in, to really share this. That's what we're trying to do with Tell Us Why. I'd like more time freedom to go do that. And that's kind of what we're working towards right now.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I mean, I don't see you turning it off at any point. Like, I know you say 40, but like you go on vacation and we're still talking all the time.
Trust me, Hannah tells me.
Sure, she yelled at you a little bit. Where were you? Dominican a couple weeks ago?
I don't even know where we were. Where were we?
Atlanta last week.
Aruba, Atlanta last week. That's what I mean. My life, I'm a very lucky man. I'm a very fortunate man.
Lifestyle design. I mean, again, that was one of my concerns. We don't know how much time we have or
so why wait?
Quality of life.
What do you get out of waiting? I mean, everyone acts like hope, and we talk about time. Hope is not a plan. Put it down, make it real, make it tangible, and then take actionable steps and surround yourself with positive people to start moving towards those goals. They're not going to happen overnight. To get into the story, we told you, we took a pay cut the first year we left. We're just now exceeding the salary we were making in the business at the time. And we've made conscious decisions to not take every single dime out of it and own a draw. Yeah, we could. We could take, we had a $250,000 cash out last week. Yeah. But you want to reinvest that as jet fuel to keep the lifestyle going. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at.
I still think we should have posted the video where you were in your driveway.
No, I 100% should not have done that. So.
But so you want to move on to the listener question?
Oh.
We got one this week.
Could not have got a better one.
Very good one.
So do you want to shoot it away and we'll get into it?
So we got a listener question from one Elvinson. I don't know his name, but we'll call him
his IG handle is one Elvinson. Yep.
Call him Elfie. Yep. Elfie asks, how do you get started leveraging other people's money? OPM. That's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Perfect. Another segue for me. Real quick on Rich Dad, Poor Dad. When I was 21 years old, a friend gave me that book. And this goes back to why your circle is so important. I've told this story multiple times. I couldn't really understand what it was talking about. I couldn't get into it. And I asked my circle of influence. So let's think about it 21 years old. That's all my buddies who were all the first in our family to go to college. I mean, they're all immigrants for the most part at that time. And, I'm first. None of us know anything. I've watched all of our parents work, try to utilize the American dream, but they're not into wealth creation, business building. We don't have those resources. So everyone in my circle of trust at the time says, that can't really work. The typical stuff. It's a scam, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward, I'm 31. I rediscover the book. It's now clicking because I'm starting to live life.
Different mindset.
By that Bible.
You got to be ready for it.
And now I'm having conversations with other entrepreneurs and business people who are taking these actionable items and putting them to work. And it was like mind blown because I'm like, now I'm living it and doing it. So to answer your question, we have built our entire business. We talk about all the time. In real estate, we're equity rich, liquidity poor half the time when you're an investor because you're constantly putting money in motion. And every dollar you take out is a dollar you don't have to reinvest. Yep. So you have to make decisions. Do I want to go get the fancy car and do this and do that, or do I want to wait?
I don't.
And have my assets pay for my liabilities, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
So the way you get started leveraging other people's money, this is very important. And we're going to start doing webinars and other things behind the scenes because we don't want to go too high level here. But early on, we went inside of raising capital by giving what some considered a really favorable return. I'll use that first deal as an example. We had our $40,000 HELOC. We had credit cards, and we had one, Matt's parents actually, shout out to Al and Carol, gave us a $50,000 loan because we offered them 15% interest. We had people who said to us, to this day, you guys are crazy. How can you give 15%? I want to back it up. We have a property. We still have that property, by the way, today, just appraised at $927,000. We got a property that without giving them what equated to $7,500, we've now got $1 million asset that spits off 6 figures in revenue every year, that spits off a nice amount of cash flow, a nice amount of tax breaks, and we wouldn't have had it without that small, relatively amount, $7,500. But people see the number on the spreadsheet, and they're so short-sighted, they don't look at what they're getting, they look at what they're giving up. And the issue I always have with that, I tell everybody, the deal needs to make sense from the person you're approaching. You're not approaching them to be uncomfortable, and you're not trying to swindle anybody. They're taking a risk on you, so come at them with an opportunity that makes the risk worth taking. Yeah. Don't be ashamed to ask for it, but also don't disrespect, we talk about it all the time. People, look how much you're giving up, 7%, 8%. Well, you're getting the asset. And if you can't get the deal done without that money, 10%, 20%, 30%, 50% of a deal is better than zero. Yeah. I thought about it on the way over here because I knew this was a listener question. And I said, okay, if I go to Jack and I say, Jack, there's an opportunity to acquire a building for $500,000. You're going to be able to sell it in a year from now for $1 million. I'll give you the $500,000, but I get 900. You get 100 of the $1 million. Are you going to be mad that I got 900, or are you going to be happy you got 100?
Yeah.
And there are people who are more focused on what they're losing and not focused on what they're getting. Yeah. And that's that negative, mindset. Those are the people you cannot do business with them.
I've literally talked to people that have thrown away deals because they were whatever, going after hard money. Again, this is all real estate, but basically they didn't want to pay a 12% interest rate. And I'm like, what? Like you literally just threw away hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Because you didn't want to pay a 12% interest rate.
You just reminded me.
That's like maybe $24,000 a year or something. Like it's not that.
And
excessive.
I know
it's a cost of doing business.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and I know Jake's listening, so one thing we'll get into behind the scenes is we'll tell people some of the verbiage that this actually might be a good follow up on this. Some of the verbiage to avoid when you're having these conversations with people, because one of them right off the bat, I can think of conversations I've had with multiple individuals. If someone says, "What are you getting it for?" you do not want to be in business with that person, because they're already looking at it like, what are you getting, not what they're getting. Yeah. Every investment should be viewed through the criteria of your lane, okay? Yeah. Does it make sense for me? Do I trust the person I'm investing with? Do they have a track record? And more importantly, back to his question, how do you get started? When you're starting out, you're doing two things. Not only are you leveraging to get going, you're also starting to build your track record. So now, guess what happened? I'll follow up on the first Kenny Bunkport story. The investor gave us $50,000. We turned around in 4 months, gave him a check back for $57,500. So their actual rate of return was 60%. No, 45%. Excuse me, 45%. Mental math. You know what they did? They turned right around when we had a deal 2 months later, and they wrote us another check for $50,000. Except we said now 11%, no questions asked. Because now we have a track record. So don't lose sight of that as well. This is what gets you started. This is what gets you in the game. So hope that answers your question. We'll definitely get you some swag. We'll
Actually, one more thing I wanted to touch on that.
Yes.
I was at my meetup last night, and there was a couple investors there. Told them to listen. They better be listening right now. But they were talking about like, they are doing wholesaling right now. They presented a deal to me with the numbers that they told me in my town. And I'm like, why would you wholesale this to me? Like, this doesn't, like, I will take this all day long, but buy this yourself.
Why are you doing it? Yeah.
Like, why are you not doing this?
Like,
we don't have enough money. Yeah. That was discussed too. But but I was like, just, if you don't have enough, like, it's a great deal. Like, good deals find money. Like, ask somebody. Like, who have you asked? Do you have any money? Like, if you don't have enough to make this deal happen, ask somebody.
Go out there. Network for
Ask your uncles, your parents.
Yes.
Like, there's more money out there than people realize. So if you're investing in a business, investing in real estate, ask. Like, you simply just have to ask a question.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. It'll lead you places that you didn't think possible.
Mm-hmm. Definitely go back and listen to that 2, 3, 4 times, because you have to ask the question. The answer, if you don't ask, is always no. And too often we make assumptions of what the other person is thinking.
Yeah.
All you're doing is presenting them an opportunity. And once you do that, they can make the decision themselves. And over time, understand, just because someone says no the first time, that's the other thing. Don't take the no personal. Stay in touch with that person. If you go through with the project, especially, one thing I do, I'm constantly talking to everyone in my network about everything we have going on, whether they're involved in the deal, whether they're not, because I want them to be excited. So when the next opportunity comes up, they're already aware of what we've got going on. You're constantly building a brand. You're constantly marketing. You got to be selling yourself. If you're not excited about it, why would they be excited about it? You're selling yourself, you know? So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. All right, so moving on. The question we ask every guest.
Oh, yeah.
AKA the question we asked me last week. So in your opinion, as a former educator, was college worth it? As it stands right now.
Is Hannah listening right now?
Yeah. By the way, my wife worked in higher ed and still does. Oh, boy. Was college worth it? I've thought about this so much. We've done so many weeks on it. I'm going to say no. Up until the last second. Because there are some pros, like getting out of the house, getting uncomfortable. The reason I'm going to say no is because now with what's out there today, between YouTube, between networking, between podcasts, between all the resources that are available, unless you are going for such a finite, high skill specific degree, you know, medicine, certain types of engineering.
I would like my doctor to be
exactly.
college educated. But
things like that, yes, but you got to think, I'm thinking like macro here, you know?
Yeah.
I've always a believer, I even said this when I was in education, the whole system needs an overhaul because education is the one place where we try to put everybody in the same box. Every single person learns different. You go to be a successful leader in a business, you don't just put every person in the same box. You play to their strengths. That's good leadership. Yeah. Yet in a classroom, for the longest time, and it's slowly changing now, which we'll get into as we build the community out, you know, because it's one thing we want to touch on. But as it stands now, it's still a lot of lecturing. It's still a lot of listening. For some people, that's great. That is not me. I cannot sit still for 10 seconds, never mind an 8-hour school day. So again, I had poor grades. I was always in trouble. I was always trying to cut class. I was trying to, hey, teacher needs a favor run down to the office. That was me. Yeah. Because I was bored.
Yeah.
They give me a test. They test my ability. I think I'm a pretty sharp guy. I was real good at reading people. I was real good at communicating. I am still a terrible writer. I wouldn't say I'm really strong at science. My eyes start to gloss over when we talk about it. Yet I had to go through the same 12 years as everybody. And then you get to college, and I'm here for business, and they're making me take, like, I don't want to offend anybody, but creative writing and poetry. I'm like, philosophy. I'm like, philosophy of what? Yeah. And this goes back to what I said. If you want to take those classes, you get to choose to go pay for them. So college as a whole needs to exist. Yeah. But the way we currently do it, no, we're putting too many people in debt. We're getting too far behind. You're simply starting too far behind for unnecessary reasons. Because how many people don't even end up using the degree or the things they learn with it, yet they're still saddled with the debt. The debt doesn't go away. Yeah. So it definitely needs an overall. So no, in my opinion, it is not.
Yeah, going back to putting everybody in a box, what is that saying? It's like if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to think it's an idiot or something to that effect.
No idea where he's going with that one, but I'm gonna find he's got one.
I'll put it in the show notes.
I think I followed it. I get it.
And then something else, just touching on it. What is the old saying? It's like the old saying, like whatever, the saying. A students work for C students and B students work for the government. I love that one.
What if you're an F student? What did you get?
Well, yeah,
you
no
produce
big deal.
podcasts.
All right, so now it's time for the beginning and the end.
Yes.
So as part of the beginning and the end, we want to ask you, what piece of actionable advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
See, and both of these questions are going to get into my why that we'll expand on to hammer that home. So one thing I would tell my 18-year-old self is acknowledge everyone, but ignore everyone in your circle of influence at that time. Go out and seek your own answers. Continue to question and push. I've always been a guy who's asked a lot of questions. I still have a memory as a young kid, my uncle telling me, man, do you ever stop asking questions? And I'm sure I said something snarky back. But something that stuck with me my whole life, I didn't grow up with much. And I remember being 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And I constantly say, why is every adult not rich? Like, what am I missing? Like, why are some people not living the life the way they want? And then I became an adult and I realized because most people become content. They become comfortable. And
9 to 5.
You basically, when you're a little kid, you're born with these dreams, these hopes. And then everyone around you, for the most part, whether they realize they're doing it or not, spends the majority of your adolescence as you get closer to adulthood, changing from you can do what you want, you can be what you want, to, well, you need to get realistic. You need to dream smaller. You need to think smaller. You need to get a safe job. So I would tell my 18-year-old self to basically tell everyone to, well, I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but basically not, don't listen. Yes.
Was it Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank? I saw something out. I don't know why I'm a quote machine today, but something along the lines that the salary they pay you for your 9 to 5 is what they pay you to give up on your dreams.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. I suck at quotes,
but we should probably then pre-put them in the notes.
That's all right. We got Jake in the background continually sending me what you're actually trying to say.
Jake, perfect.
All in the show notes.
If you can say them what they actually are, that'd be great. But all right, so moving on to the end of your life, what's the one thing you want your 90-year-old self to say to you? What do you want to hear? Whether you want us, what do you want?
I would want my 90-year-old self to say that I made the impact I wanted to make. And this ties to my why. What I want to do is I want for my wife, for my mother, for my brothers, for my friends, for other investors I've met, the friends I've made through investing, through former students, through those I'm reconnecting with. I geek out when I solve someone's problem or someone says I had a positive impact. And I want to scale that. And really, my motivation right now is to show that it does not matter where you start. You cannot control that. Focusing on it, wasting energy on it, you have zero say on it. So stop bitching about it. Stop complaining about it. Look forward, make a plan, bet on yourself, and live life on your terms. And if you can preach that message and make it actionable, and whether it's one person or 1 million people, if you can impact them and get them closer to their goals and making the most out of this game called life, that's what I would want.
Yeah, I know. On that note, I know one of your favorite things. We've talked about this offline. Writing a check to an investor.
Yeah.
I know that's one of your favorite things. But all right, so
Yeah.
moving on. Where can people get more information about you or get in touch with you?
So,
or
yes.
whatever you want to reveal here.
Yes, if you want to reach out, please, all the Tell Us Why social media. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at mketchen. We're doing a ton with this. To really re-emphasize again, guys, we're now live on iTunes. The goal of Tell Us Why, and we are going to be consistent in building this community, is to get to a point where we're sharing resources, we're talking about business opportunities, we're sharing knowledge. We're really kind of getting everybody involved in this community to whatever it is, whether it's just buy your first investment, whether it's start to invest, whether it's starting a business, whether it's just learning more about budgeting and personal finance, whether it's about tackling a question around financial literacy. That's what we're trying to do here. So please reach out on social media, all platforms, and we hope to connect on there.
Yeah, so like, subscribe, share. All the Tell Us Why information will be in the show notes. What do we got next week?
Next week, first guest, Matthew Hitchcock coming up. Great investor. Make sure you're back at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, and we'll check it out.
All right, so until then, don't forget.
Tell us why and bet on yourself.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.